Stress and anxiety and burnout is becoming an unavoidable reality in different professions and different industries. Did you know that 74% of UK professional adults go through one form of stress, one form of burnout, one form of being overwhelmed or having different symptoms or signs of anxiety in different areas of their life? The age group that is highly affected by this are people that in the age demography of 25 to 44. So it's very important as we start our podcast series to have these conversations as creative and tech professional. Because for everybody in this call, including myself, we all know that we are one of the highest culprits that always work ourselves out, trying to meet various deadlines, trying to meet various overwhelming tasks, just to ensure that we deliver as creative and tech professional. Welcome to Ace Creative Connect, a creative and tech podcast created to drive relevant conversation in the creative and tech ecosystem. This podcast is powered by Ace Creative Community, and the sole purpose of this podcast is not just to drive relevant conversation, but to be able to inspire creative and tech professionals to enable us to be able to learn, connect, collaborate, and grow. In this episode, we're going to be discussing on a very crucial topic called understanding and managing burnout. Joining us to take this crucial topic is Mike H. Abbott. Mike is a renowned executive coach, an HR consultant, and an author with over 20 years of leadership experience managing and working with brands like Tesco and lots of local and global leading brands in various industries. Mike is no other person but a former people's manager that have shaped talent, developed and recruit various people in the workspace across various organizations in the UK and internationally. Mike is the founder of MikeHabbott.com, where he specializes as an executive coach. He specializes as workplace mediation and also leadership development. He has a passion for mental health and mental well-being. And the reason why he's one of the most qualified person to handle this topic is that he has a book called Burnout, My Story from Burnout to Recovery, offering various strategies on how to prevent and manage stress and burnout in the work environment. Now, this book was written based on his own personal experience in this particular issue. So if you're watching from YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, because we're going to be bringing in thought leaders in the creative and tech ecosystem that are going to be driving relevant, important conversations that would help you in this industry, irrespective of whichever sphere you are in your creative and tech journey. Mike H. Abbott, it's good to have you in the community.
It's wonderful to be here, Demola. Thank you.
Right. All right, Mike, great to have you here. Thank you so very much for accepting our invite.
Demola, thank you so much for inviting me to speak tonight at the ACE Creative Community. What an honor it is to be here. And thank you for joining wherever you are in the world tonight. I hope it's warmer than it is in here currently tonight in the UK. My name is Mike Abbott, and I'm the CEO of MikeHabbott.com. And the topic that I will be speaking on tonight is, are you on the verge of burnout? 14 years ago, I got burnt out and wrote about it in my book, My Story from Burnout to Recovery. So I've been to the other side and come back. Maybe have you ever felt like you're running on empty with no time to recharge your batteries, going from one project to the next project? So what am I going to be talking about tonight? So what is burnout? What are the signs and the symptoms that maybe you need to identify with tonight and start thinking about in your own life? What's the consequences of ignoring burnout and preventing and addressing burnout? So let's go. Thank you, Demola.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike.
If we could go to the first slide, please. So we can go to the second one. What is burnout? So burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged and excessive stress. It can occur when we feel sometimes overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet certain constant demands, whether from work, in your personal responsibilities, or other pressures. Over 77% of professionals report experiencing burnout at their current job. This was found by Gallup in 2022. And the World Health Authority officially recognized burnout as an occupational phenomenon and a medical condition. It is included in the International Classification of Diseases under the section related to burnout. So let's go and look at what are the signs and some of the symptoms that maybe you've been experiencing up until this point. Maybe you've got some great goals, maybe you've got some great gains and goals that you want to achieve. But maybe there's a few of these signs that maybe are creeping in. If we can go to the next slide, please. So emotionally, are you feeling cynical about a project that you once loved? Or are you feeling physically, are you falling asleep but waking up tired? Are you constantly thinking about work and is it on your mind all the time? Behaviorally, overworking, not having breaks, neglecting health, snapping at loved ones. What about your loved ones, your children or your work colleagues? Do you snap at them because you think, more work, this is all too much for me? You know, ignoring our body's signals has consequences. I certainly ignored mine. And one day, my body shut down. I wasn't able to talk, I wasn't able to function, and I could not even speak without the aid of my wife. So I want you to think about, are you some of these signs creeping into your workspace emotionally? Physically, are you tired all the time? Behaviorally, are you acting irrationally to those that you live with and work with? You see, I was so career-minded that I was willing to put my body at risk. So I didn't want to say no to people. I didn't want to let people down. So let's talk about what are some of the consequences of ignoring burnout. Well, I don't want you to be like this poor guy in this picture that's having someone doing CPR on him because you've ignored the consequences of ignoring your body. There could be there could be a risk of heart issues, chronic exhaustion. Emotionally, I had dreadful panic attacks, constant stress. I had panic attacks when I was at work and I felt so alone. Nobody understood what was going on in Mike's world. Relationally, strained relationship, a burden that I was placing on my loved ones. Not wanting to let anyone down. Does that sound familiar, Demola? Not wanting to let anyone down? And just going and going and going like you're on a merry-go-round and going round at the fair again and again. So I want to ask you a question tonight, just for a minute. I want each person on this webinar tonight, on this podcast, what is your body saying to you tonight? What's your body giving you a warning about that you're ignoring? Is it your loved one saying you can't carry on like this? What's physically? Are you eating on the go? Are you eating non-stop when you're working and eating and not stopping for breaks? Are you running on coffee or those drinks that are meant to have so much caffeine in it that they keep you going and you're like a robot that's fully charged and you do not know how to switch off? There are consequences of ignoring burnout, and I certainly ignore those. I remember I went to my nephew's 21st birthday party, and my parents were really concerned about me, and they said, "Mike, are you okay? Are you okay?" And even when I was 70 miles away at this birthday party, people were still phoning me up from work, interrupting my time with my family. And really, I was going to end up like that poor gentleman having CPR on me. Okay, Demola, you see, what happens is if we don't prevent and addressing burnout, if we can go to the next slide, you have to listen to your body. Are you getting the rest? I was talking to someone this week, I won't mention their name, that was working to 3 a.m. in the morning and then getting up to go to work the next day. Do you eat well? Do you take breaks in your lunchtime? Or do you think, no, they can't do without? Do you set boundaries? Do you learn to say no and prioritize yourself? Are you at your best when you're working on your projects or doing second best? That's a brilliant question to ask, isn't it? Because if we're getting paid and we're doing half-hearted work because we're so exhausted, then we need to take some breaks. Seek support. Open communication with loved ones or professionals. I was certainly, when my body shut down, my wife took over, she took me to the doctor, and then I got the support I needed. And it took me 7 weeks to have time away. And in that time when I was away, do you know what I did the most? I slept. And I slept. And I slept. I couldn't cope with people. I couldn't cope with people around me. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Just what was like a zombie in a horror film coming back to life again. I'm not saying I'm a zombie because I'm a nice guy, but what I'm saying is without the support, it would have had a major impact upon my life. A major impact. Without my support of my loving wife today, I wouldn't be here, because when I went to see my doctor, he said, "Mike, you're that close to having a full nervous breakdown." So what are some of the things that you can do to prevent and address burnout? It's great to be successful. It's great to create money. It's great to want to do better for yourself and your family wherever you are. But at what cost? Because as Demola said, there are people that I've known that have got so burnt out that they're no longer with us. It amazes me that people recharge their phones more than they recharge themselves, or their laptop. When was the last time that you recharged your? When was the last time that you stopped and took stock of where you are and what you're doing? You have to listen to your body. You have to set boundaries, and you have to seek support. So I want to ask you today, are you on the verge of burnout? So I want you to take a minute, wherever you are in the world, just to look at some of the warning signs. Are you sleeping okay? Are you worrying all the time? When was the last time that you stopped? Or are you like this person that I spoke to that thinks they can work to 3 a.m. in the morning? It's okay, Mike, I can have a nap, I'm okay. I remember someone read my book that's in front of you, and they were a deputy head teacher at a school. And after reading my book, they realized that they didn't stop. They were on the verge of having a heart attack. And as a result of reading my book, they decided to get out of education. So it's about recognizing the signs, understanding the consequences. It's not your wife nagging you or your girlfriend or your friends. You have to take proactive steps to move forwards, because today is the only day you've got to live. I want to read something from my book on page 76 in my book. And in each summary of my book, every chapter there's a summary about some things that I had to do as a result of getting burnout. And the chapter in chapter 6 is not neglecting other areas of your life. So this is okay, Demola. I'm just going to read a few chapter summaries for you. Being driven and having career ambition is okay, as long as it's not all-encompassing. As long as it doesn't take over your life and said, no, I've got to have this, I've got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. It's so important to get the right balance in all areas of your life, your health, your mental, your physical. You need the safety car to keep you from derailing. You may be aware of SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic time scales. But Mike Abbott had another one. His goals were all-consuming, dangerous, and totally career-minded. Ensuring that you don't lose sight of all the other areas within your life. Listening to your body. Having real conversations with people and finding out what their real world is like if you're so engrossed in your own. Is your ladder and what you're doing facing the right wall for your life? That's an amazing quote, isn't it? So Demola, is your ladder facing the right wall in your life? Don't answer that now, but something for you to go away and think about. Because I was so driven, I was becoming someone that I wasn't. Don't become someone that you're not. Live by your core values. Make time and space for yourself, not neglecting your family or your friends. What about having a hobby, doing something else outside work to do something else? And you know what else is important? Laughter. Being able to laugh. I laugh at myself all the time. Turning off the phone. That's why we've got an answer phone facility on our phones. But you know, because we live in a 24/7 world, we think that we're available sometimes 24/7. And that was one of the big keys that I had to learn, was turning my phone off, because I would get interrupted from work all the time. Seeing that there is an outside window, outside, fresh air, going for a walk, and setting boundaries and safeguards. So if you want to find out more about my book, it's available on Amazon, if I can get those words out. So I want to encourage you to apply. What will you do today to protect yourself? And what will you do so that you don't get burnout like I did 14 years ago? And then I had to go through a process that, unfortunately, if I had more time, I would love to share. But you can find some of those answers out in my book. But I want you to think about you amazing tech people, and I love tech people because they help me out. But what are you going to do to help yourself and encourage you to apply? Maybe one of these things is maybe turning the phone off, having boundaries about saying no to people. What will you do differently? Because one day my body said to me, Mike, I've had enough. You're not listening to other people, so I'm giving you a choice now. So I want to take a minute. What will you do today to prevent yourself from getting burnt out and not be one of those people that the World Health Authority says, or the Gallup poll says, that one of the professionals says that we're like this? I hope you learn from my experience, because wherever I go, I help people like I helped that head teacher who's now got her life back together. My friend in Germany, I helped him when he was CEO of a big organization. I talk about burnout wherever I go because I want people to have the medicine before it's too late. So thank you for joining tonight. I hope it's been beneficial. I know I've only spoken for about 15 minutes, Demola. I hope that's been insightful for people.
Yes, it is. It is. It's been so super insightful. And I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, sure.
And it's not just insightful, it's been very, very educative and informative. And what makes your experience a little bit unique is that you are not teaching from theoretical knowledge, you're teaching from experience.
Yeah.
So you are the most qualified person that will be able to answer some of the questions that we're basically going to have. So for creative and tech professionals, one of the burdens we are always burdened with is always delivering briefs that to us means the world. So we have organizations, for example, for web designers who solely depends on websites running, emails running, that if there's any technical issue, the tech professional has to come in.
Yeah.
Or for developers, if the app has a downtime, it practically affects businesses like Uber, businesses that runs on those platforms. So it's almost like our coming to an end, and this puts pressures on our
Yeah.
heads. My first question is that how do we manage time based on our heavy deliverables that we would be able to avoid this? Now, and the reason why I'm saying this is because deadlines are always there.
Sure.
Understand? They are always there and they are always crazy.
Yeah.
So how can I, as a creative or tech professional, website designer, software developer, printing professional, event planners, you understand, that has an event, so how can we manage our time to be able to handle these conundrums?
Sure. I think again, we all work to deadlines. I think sometimes it's having the ABCD model. It's like, am I working on something that's ultra important? Am I working on something that's not so important? I think it's then creating the barriers around that when you've got a deadline. And is it that you can, if you're working late, is it so sometimes I might take a nap in the afternoon if I'm working late? Or is it that I then prioritize what is the A more important than the B, the C, and the D? So it's categorizing what is the importance of the time, because sometimes we can all waste time. We can waste time. Am I wasting time on social media? Have I blocked out that time to actually set the clock, to actually spend an hour on that and be creative? It's understanding when am I at my most creative. So I'm a morning person, so I'm more creative in the morning. But I know that I will have to go to bed early to get up at 5 to work on some of those things that I've got to do. I think sometimes it's saying to the customer, sometimes customers want things and we go above and beyond. I understand that. But sometimes if I'm always doing it, are we setting back too unrealistic boundaries for some of the things that we're working on? And I understand things come up unexpectedly, as they always do. So I think it's a mixture really of, okay, I know for this day I'm going to be flat out, but what am I going to do to recover the next day? Or is it just going to continue like that? That's where it breaks down in my view, because I've been there, where you start at 5:30 in the morning and you're still there at 11 o'clock at night, and that's going from one day to the other. Is it something that you can then say, I can't do that, but I can do this? I think sometimes we don't want to let people down. We don't like saying no. I've mentioned that just now. So I think it's a combination of, we have to think about, okay, I can do this for a short while, but I cannot do this continually 7 days a week. Does that help answer that question?
Beautiful, beautiful. So I think if there's any takeaway from me is the ABC model, prioritizing what's more important.
Yeah.
And even if one passed through for a period of time,
Yeah.
understanding his body,
Yeah.
knowing when to say, okay, I have to stop.
Yeah.
Like you said, recharge.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike.
I
Like
think-
I said,
Sorry, I think, Demola, the other thing is, if you work in teams, it's understanding what's your expertise within that team and what do you bring to that team. So for example, my wife's very astute with finances. So I bring something else to the team. If we're working together on a project, she can do with the finances. I go away and do something else. I understand that some of your tech people work on their own, but sometimes they collaboratively do work with other people. But it's understanding what are the skills and what are they actually bringing to the table that they can actually utilize.
That's so amazing. I've not seen it in that perspective, especially in the area of delegation before. Thank you so much for shedding more light. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Now, my second question is this, which are some of the questions that we get from the community members. In this social media age, whereby everything is all about attention grabbing, every social media platforms, what they're actually selling is how to grab people's attention the best way they can. And even like you said, as creative professionals, some of the places we get our inspiration are on social media platform. Now I know that sometimes we actually waste time on those plus places, but sometimes we give ourselves the excuse that it's us being productive, sparking in X factor of our creative brains. In fact, some of us even say to ourselves, when we are resting, we are still on our phone. You understand what I'm saying right now? What we're resting. So, what will you speak to this on how to be able to shut down in this ever attention driven social media online space? Not even just social media. We're talking about Netflix. We're talking about Amazon Prime. We're talking about Disney Plus. Everybody just wants to get, that's a social currency now by every platforms. They want to grab your attention. Spotify. So how do we as creative professional strike a balance which creatively sparking our X factor using these platforms, or trying as much as possible to be productive and not burn out even while on this platform?
I think for me, I like the hours between 5 and 8.
Okay.
Because if I hit 9 o'clock, everybody in the world wants me. And it's what am I doing to work on myself? So am I working on myself to educate myself, to work on my core skills, to work on what's important to me? Because what happens is when I go on social media, I'm not saying it's wrong to go on social media, that's everybody else's opinion. But how is it helping me grow? Like the library of books that I've got in my studio. What am I doing to work on me? Not someone else's opinion. I think it's okay to look at those things, but how does it relate to where I want to go with my goals? Without goals, you see, I never board a plane where the pilot doesn't know where he's going. But I meet a lot of people in life that they board their plane and they don't know where they're going with their life. In other words, they can get turbulence. It's another person's opinion on social media, so they go off in that direction, or they go off in this direction. They do other things. But unless I'm honed in on what I want to work at and where I want to go, so between 5 and 8, do I block out that time for physical activity? So I'm creating myself to be healthy. Am I working on my mental capacity? Am I working on my creative side? Am I upskilling myself? So because otherwise I'm going to be like this in front of my phone. Oh, here we go again, just scrolling. There's got to be purpose in what we do. That's the key to me. Why are you looking at this? Is it because you've got into a bad habit, or every morning you get up, oh, gotta look, because that's my safety barrier. And I think it's okay to look at these sites, but what are you doing? Are you wasting time looking at them? Because then each week on a Monday, I then get my screen time. Doesn't it come up on your phone? Your screen time for last week, it's gone up, it's gone down. So I think there's a balance in all of this, but what are you doing to improve you? What are you working on mentally? What are you working on your creativity side? What are you doing to actually enhance your skills? Because going on a site and looking at those things might be a YouTube video. So when I was at the gym this morning, I did 40 minutes on the treadmill, but I was looking at people to do with diet and healthy living. But that was my time on the treadmill this morning. Sorry, it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but
Thank you so much. That's actually very insightful. And the beauty about this is that because you're an HR professional and consultant, you basically have a balance to this. And what you're bringing to the table is that you're not just talking about how it benefits us in context of our personal life. You are also focused on the productivity part of it that will not also affect our workplace.
I think it's breaking it down. So if it's 5 o'clock, I'm going to get up, I want to compose my music. So then for 30 minutes, I'm going to set the time, I'm going to do that. Then I go to the gym, then I do something else. But it's all set to time. And do you plan your week out, or does your week plan you out?
So meaning at the beginning of the week, we should always ensure we schedule. All right, Mike. So now this is now my final question. And the reason I'm asking this question is crucial. Now, you've spoken about signs of burnout, understanding burnout. But my final question is when we are now being burnt out. You understand? Because some people watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast at the moment are actually burnt out. In fact, they've had it here. Obviously, burnouts are on different levels. Some might be mentally related, some might be health related and all that. But we're not going to go into the medical side of it yet. But once one is feeling it up to here, because you've been there before, and yours will even went medical because your physicians and your doctor had to come in at some point. What are the basic steps that when you recommend you take? Meaning you've hit the T. You understand? What should I do immediately to remedy this fact? Or if I'm almost getting to the threshold of being burnout, for someone that has been there before, and you counsel people who gets burnt out sporadically, what advice will you give us to take immediately we experience this phase?
I think that the number one thing that I learned was you have to have sleep. You have to get sleep, because sleep is so important, because it does so much for your body, it does so much for your mind. I think it's then saying by a certain time that I'm going to have to go to bed at a certain time, and I'm going to try and get 6-7 hours sleep to start off with. And I think you then have to say, if you're so burnt out that you can't function, that you might have to step away for a while to completely recharge your batteries. And I know that's difficult for people on the podcast or on the webinar tonight, but you have to then say, what's the longer lasting damage if I don't actually stop now? So it's then having that honest conversation with your loved ones, your partners, and saying, I'm going to have to take some time out. But sleep, I would say it's trying to get some sleep, immediate sleep, and to see there's a way that you can stop what you're doing for a break or go on holiday, and then look at your diary and say, I'm not going to do anything that weekend. And you might switch off your phone, go to sleep.
And as little as that is actually magic. I think we as humans, we totally underestimate what sleep does and how the body is designed. Then you go to bed, cells are being regenerated. The red blood cells and white blood cells are being recreated. The bone marrow starts, your brain basically reactivates. There's this freshness we have when we basically wake up. Even when we're trying to solve a particular problem, you kind of get solutions to times when you go to bed. And that's from a different approach.
And that's what happened to me for like 4 weeks. All I did was sleep. Sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep.
And holidays. We need to take a lot of holidays.
I mean, that's a question. If I could see the folks tonight, the people on this tonight, I would be asking them, when was the last time you had a day off? Even a day off. So Demola, when was your last day?
I think I have one scheduled for next week or next 2 weeks.
I'm just checking in with
I know. I'm a culprit. Guilty as charged. Trust me. Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. But that's the most important reason why we're having this session. We're definitely going to be having you back on other topics that is beyond this, especially in the area of human resource.
Sure. And if anybody wants to reach out, they can reach me at info@mikehabbott.com.
Yes. So that has been shared to the screen. And for those that are watching on YouTube, I'm going to be putting it on below the YouTube description. Please just ensure that when you're sending your email, always ensure that you put Ace Creative Community so that Mike will know where you're coming from.
I won't go into spam or something like that.
Yeah. And Mike has assured that he's going to attend to you. Thank you so much, Mike, for this amazing opportunity. So can you have a final word for creative and tech professionals on?
I'm super excited about this platform. I think it's amazing that you're getting creatives together because sometimes you can feel like the only person in the room when you go to an event. But I want you to set out that 2025 is going to be your best year yet. That you're going to excel at what you're going to do, because you're watching your emotions, you're watching your sleep, you're watching what you're going to do. But also you're going to watch out for the burnout signs. For those that are in burnout, please take action today, because your body's been warning you, your friends and your family have been warning you. And I want you to succeed. I want you to be fruitful in everything that you do, and I want you not to get burnt out, because burnout's real. It's been recognized by the World Health Authority. I've been there and I've come through the other side. This is Mike H. Abbott saying, don't get burnt out.
Thank you so very much. And thank you so much for joining Ace Creative Connects, a creative and tech podcast that drive relevant conversation in the creative and tech ecosystem. This is Demola Adeogun, founder of Ace Creative Community and Ace Creative Connect. See you on the next one. Do have an amazing week ahead. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.